Hi everyone, welcome back to the Story Frame YouTube channel. I am Lisbeth Vargas, and today we are diving into the fascinating world of Brian Aldiss's short story Supertoys Last All Summer Long. This story, which inspired the movie AI Artificial Intelligence, which we will be covering later on this YouTube channel, explores deep themes of isolation, artificial intelligence, and the nature of love. So to talk a little bit about this short story, it is a sci-fi story set in the future where overpopulation limits childbirth, so it leads to the creation of advanced AI children. David, who is a robotic boy, longs for his mother's, Monica's, love, but he struggles with feelings of rejection. So his only companion is Teddy, a robotic bear. And meanwhile, Monica feels emotionally distant from David, unable to love him as she would a real child. So the story explores themes of artificial intelligence, again, as I mentioned, emotional isolation, and the nature of love. So what makes this story so powerful? The literary elements. So let's break them down.
Imagery. Imagery refers to the use of vivid and descriptive language that appeals to the senses, creating mental images for the reader.
Aldiss immerses us in this futuristic world using his very vivid imagery. For example, take the opening scene in which he writes, "In Mrs. Swinton's garden, it was always summer. The lovely almond trees stood about it in perpetual leaf." So this scene creates a perfect artificial world. We can clearly imagine it in our minds with the imagery that he provides us, and we can see this perfect garden that he's speaking about. One that clearly contrasts Monica's emotional distress and emptiness. And we can even take it as that the artificial beauty mirrors the synthetic nature of David, the robotic child being spoken about in this story.
Symbolism. Symbolism is the use of objects, characters, or events to represent deeper meanings and abstract concepts.
Symbols play a key role in this story. The most striking one, the rose. So when it's written, seizing the flower, he ran with it across the lawn and disappeared behind the kennel. David, floating this rose in his paddling pool, represents his childlike wonder and desire for beauty. So it symbolizes his fleeting existence, beauty ultimately fragile. Then there's also Teddy, who is the AI bear. He symbolizes comfort and companionship, yet his responses clearly highlight the limitations of his artificial love. There was even once when where it is clearly mentioned that he tries to understand David, but he's clearly a robot. There's one time he even repeats a question twice. Instead of saying, "Did you listen to me?" or "I said this and that," he repeated the same question twice because he just didn't get, or he thought that David didn't hear him. So instead of acting like a human being and being like, "Did you hear me?" or saying, "I said this," he just repeated the exact same question, like, "Are you all right? Are you all right?" And that is clearly a sign that he is robotic in nature.
Juxtaposition. Juxtaposition places two contrasting ideas, characters, or settings next to each other to highlight differences and create meaning.
Aldiss masterfully contrasts the artificial and the real. So he says, "An overcrowded world is the ideal place in which to be lonely." Monica's perfect holographic garden stands in contrast with her inner loneliness. And not only that, she mentions quite a few times, even I believe her husband mentions in his thoughts, that nobody wants to see this overcrowded world, but they are so lonely. And it's clearly a contrast, because how can you be lonely when there are so many people in the world? And it's probably because they lost touch with their own feelings and emotions because of their advancement in the technological aspect. So similarly, David's innocence and affections are contrasted with his synthetic origins. How can a robot be so innocent and want love from his mother without knowing his true nature, without acting like a robot? So this constant interplay between real emotions and artificial constructs forces us to ask clearly what makes love real, which David is struggling with in the story. He keeps asking Teddy these questions because he is questioning his own existence and if time is real, if love is real, if beauty is real, because he wants to connect with his mother, but he clearly feels unable to because of his nature.
Irony. Irony occurs when there is a discrepancy between expectation and reality, often creating humor or deepening the story's meaning.
Irony is found throughout this whole story. For example, Monica and Henry desperately want a real child, but they have David, a synthetic one. And not only that, it's ironic that they have David, who is it is a robotic child, but clearly has feelings, and they are not interested at all in creating a relationship with this child. Also, when he writes, "Dear Mommy, I hope you're well just now. I love you," David writes letters to his mother, but she never reads them, reinforcing the cruel irony that he expresses love, which is what they want. They want a child to love, but they clearly don't love him back, and he receives none in return. And just as David tries to prove his love, Monica and Henry win the parenthood lottery, making him obsolete. And not only that, it was extremely cruel in the end when they were like, or is he exhibiting any issues, or is he malfunctioning? And she's like, well, he'll have to be sent back to the factory now. They are so detached from this robot child, and it's so sad because David clearly is showing signs of love.
Personification. Personification gives human qualities to non-human entities, making them feel more relatable and dynamic.
One of the most intriguing aspects of Supertoys is how Aldiss gives human-like qualities to the AI robots that we see. So one of the major things that I found was Teddy, the robotic bear. He speaks with warmth and reassurance most of the time, almost as if he truly cares. So, for example, Teddy gave him a friendly cuff over the head. The bear's affectionate gestures, and not only gestures, but words, make him seem like a real companion, like he truly cares for David. And he even calls Monica Mommy, which I believe is in his programming, of course. But the story makes us question whether he genuinely cares or he is simply programmed to mimic care, which is very sad when you think that David, this boy that is exhibiting real human emotions, only friend or only companion is the teddy bear that is clearly also a robot and is exhibiting even less emotions than David.
Paradox. A paradox is a statement or situation that appears contradictory but reveals a deeper truth.
The story presents a major paradox. David is designed to love, but he may never truly be loved in return. His existence is both a solution to loneliness and a reminder of it, which is extremely sad as well. I just keep saying it's extremely sad, don't I? But it is a very sad story, and it kind of traumatized me when I read it. But he is a robot that was given to Monica, or provided to Monica, because she felt so lonely and because of the childbearing limitations of this futuristic world. She's not able to have a child, so she was giving this child who clearly loves her and is trying to get love from her, but he just clearly highlights her loneliness and is not helping fill that hole. So his existence, as I said, is both a solution to loneliness and a reminder of it. He asks, how do you tell what are real things from what aren't real things? This line, as sad as it is, captures the entire essence of this story.
Allegory. An allegory is an extended metaphor where the entire story represents a broader concept or theme.
This story functions as an allegory for the human experience in an increasingly technological world. So just like David longs for human love, modern society struggles with the role of artificial intelligence in their lives, which clearly is a struggle that we are facing today, even more than when the story was written. So the Swintons struggle with emotional authenticity, and it mirrors our own challenges in balancing human connection with technological advancement. At the beginning of the story, it is told that Monica prefers to stay at home instead of going out with her husband to the conference that he's speaking at. And it's quite clear that she is kind of depressed, not only because of the childbearing limitations, but also because she lacks emotional connection in this overpopulated world, but seemingly very lonely world, which is quite a contrast. For example, Monica's lack of emotional connection with David as well reflects society's growing disconnection in a technological-driven world. And that's when the story was written. Today, that is an even bigger disconnection between humans. And this technological world that we are fomenting is clearly one of the reasons why this disconnect has happened.
Metaphor. A metaphor is a direct comparison between two unrelated things to suggest they share common traits.
The entire story operates as a metaphor for the struggle between reality and illusion. So David, an artificial child, represents the illusion of love and family, while Monica's disconnection reflects the harsh reality of human emotions. So the world Aldiss created serves as an extended metaphor for a society dependent on artificial solutions to emotional problems. So, as I mentioned before in this video, Monica is clearly kind of depressed, not only because of her not being able to bear a child because of society's limitations, but also because of the emotional disconnect that she has from the rest of society. And the artificial solution to this, let me create an artificial child, that is clearly just showing you the deep hole that you feel in your person from not having a child. So David's question, "What is real, mommy?" is a metaphor for humanity's struggle to distinguish between genuine affection and the artificial constructs that they keep coming up with.
Oxymoron. An oxymoron is a combination of contradictory words that create an interesting or thought-provoking effect.
And lastly, one of the subtle yet powerful literary devices used in the story is oxymoron. Phrases like artificial love and synthetic child embody the conflicting nature of David's existence. These contradictions force us to reflect on whether something artificial can ever truly replace what is real. So for instance, when David says, "I am your child," it highlights the oxymoron between his physical existence and the emotional disconnect that Monica feels to him. So clearly from the conference that we saw at the beginning of the story, they're not only going to keep creating these robots, but they're going to create robots that are even meant to mirror love. And not only emotional love, but also physical love. And this is something that we keep asking throughout this whole story. Is this really positive? Is this really going to fill the void that some people are feeling? And clearly for Monica, this artificial child didn't help, so why keep trying? And honestly, that's the whole point of this story. So, what do you think? Do artificial beings like David deserve love? Can a programmed emotion ever be considered real? I really hope you enjoyed this literary devices breakdown that I did. If you did, please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more literary deep dives. Thank you very much for joining me. See you next time. Bye.